Welcome to the Film Whisperers on Ben TV, where two film nerds talk all things movies with a contemporary lens. My name is Sarge.
And my name is Matthew.
We've just had an interesting discussion on some very interesting films. Both, actually, all of them are female-led, which is good.
A Trip Down Memory Lane.
I know, Trip Down Memory Lane, 2011. Okay, so I guess I'd like to introduce this next segment, which is the WTF film.
And
films.
to just explain to the viewers,
Yep.
So we looked at obviously movies that we think have aged really well, like that have held up over the last 10 years, and also movies that haven't. And I guess these are movies that are just kind of a bit strange for the time,
Yeah.
and that probably
Surprise.
is still strange now, and a bit of a surprise,
Yeah.
and would still probably even be surprising today
Yeah.
to watch them.
And I guess to clarify, a surprise could be either a good or a bad
Totally.
surprise, right? So anyway, yeah.
In the spirit of that, do you have any that you do remember watching a film in 2011 that you like, that shocked you or surprised you, that you're still like?
So this film is also based on a book. It's called We Need to Talk About Kevin.
Classic, yeah.
Yep, you watched it?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I read the book as well. Like,
yeah,
I
me
actually-
too.
first and then-
Yeah. So I need to tell you a story.
Yeah.
About We Need to Talk About Kevin. So my friend Jess and I, we decided to read the book and watch the film together. So we both read the book, and she was coming over to our place to watch the film. And during this time, my partner, Mitch, he hadn't read the book. I'm not saying he didn't want to see the film, but we had a friend from America staying with us. And Jess and I, we thought, okay, we're going to watch a film. And I remember telling Mitch, hey, you don't need to be here to watch this film. We've read the book, so we've got a vested interest in the movie. Up to you. You can stay, you can go, whatever. Anyway, we all decided to watch it together. Now,
And interesting, before you continue, like it's like the movie's not like a fun comedy group thing, is it? It's like more of a serious, like
Correct.
heavy movie. Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, usually with films, you know what it's like when you watch films with friends. No one pays attention sometimes, and people on their phone, you know, people talk, there's banter. Pin drop silence the entire movie.
Wow.
The moment we hit play till the end, it was just pin drop silence. We were so engaged in the film. Jess, my friend, was in tears.
Wow.
And I could not believe how great they had adapted this book to a cinematic dimension. Some of the scenes in there were exactly how the book was written in terms of the descriptions in some of the chapters. And they didn't waste any time to show you the trauma that this main character, that was another female-led film, Tilda Swinton,
true, yeah.
you know, another amazing actress, the trauma that she was going through, and I thought she was phenomenal. And yes, so that was so I guess the reason as to why it's a WTF film for me is because usually book to film transitions don't always work, and you know, I would say 80% of the time it's a miss and a hit. This was a hit.
Wow, yeah.
And secondly, you know, you don't expect a film called We Need to Talk About Kevin. Like, you know, it's just such a weird name, and I just didn't expect to like it, and I was blown away.
I'm trying to remember, like, because it's a brilliant movie. Like, I really liked it as well. Did it get much recognition anyway?
No, it did not. In fact, I remember there was talk about, well, do you reckon Tilda Swinton may end up getting an Oscar nomination? I don't think she did.
That's a shame.
Yeah, that would be mine, right? What about you?
My choice would be a movie called The Skin I Live In, which stars Antonio Banderas. So I'm kind of like breaking the theme we've had this episode of all female-led films, so I'm sorry.
Is it horror?
No, it's kind of like, I guess it's kind of a thriller-ish, but it's a bit of a drama. Like it's a lot of different things. But it's very much like a whoa kind of movie if you go into it blind, which I kind of would recommend because it's kind of more interesting to watch if you don't know where it's heading. But the basic premise is that Antonio Banderas' character is like a plastic surgeon. Something happens to his daughter that's quite traumatic. And so he decides to try to hunt down the person who made his daughter's life traumatic and inflict some kind of revenge. And it turns into a bunch of other things, right? But I think it's a really absolutely gripping, absolutely well-made movie. And there's like multiple points of the film where it just takes a complete turn and you're like, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that at all. Like there are surprises, like I reckon multiple big surprises at least 3 or 4 times throughout the movie, and it's just like it's really, really good. I was actually, before I brought this up today, thinking like, oh, maybe I could have almost put this in the it's aged not that well category, because part of it has to do with like trans identities, but not in a way that's necessarily positive. So it could be, I don't know if necessarily, it may be considered a bit problematic today because of the way that it depicts like almost like kind of forced gender reassignment surgery. But it's just a really, really well-made movie. It's really gripping, and I was just like, whoa, shocked. Like I can't actually think of another movie that year, or actually even like I think of very few movies in the last decade that I've had the same kind of response to. Because when I watched it, I was just like, oh my gosh, and I was like telling everyone, you need to watch this movie. Like, it's just one of those ones where you just don't know where it's going. It heads in all these different directions. Like, it's really, really well made. So, yeah, I just had to bring that one up because that's 2011, and oh my gosh, like 10 years ago, like it feels.
So where does the trans character and the gender reassignment surgery fit into the storyline?
Yeah, I feel like I'm spoiling it a bit,
right,
but it's
okay,
kind
it's
of
fine,
basically,
yeah.
it plays into the narrative, and it's kind of like, it's not like they're saying that, the movie isn't saying that like transgender identities are bad, it's just that because it's in the context of a thriller, and it's kind of like, you know, the movie's quite tense and scary, like there's all these turns, it's not necessarily depicting in like this, like, oh, it's like, it's not like a healthy, normal, like person that wants to transition, it's like, it's framed in a bit of a different way. So I'd actually be curious to look up to see how people think it's aged, because like it could go either way, I guess. But it is definitely like a shocking kind of movie. So if you're interested in kind of something a bit outside of the box, then I'd definitely recommend that.
Why am I not surprised that you recommended this?
I know.
There's always something out of the...
I had a few ideas, but I was like, that one has to be the one, because I'm like, I still think about that now. I've watched it like multiple times over the last 10 years, and I'm like, it's still, even knowing what the different twists are now, I'm like, oh gosh, like it's still, every time I watch it, it's so good. So.
No horror this episode?
I know, you're right, no.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of crappy horrors in 2011. I'm sorry, 2011, I think Jordan Peele and all of that, like the early 2010s, there were like a few exceptions, but a lot of horror in this like period between the late 2000s and the early 2010s were not that great. Like I feel like there's been like a renaissance of horror like since Jordan Peele and a few other directors have brought out movies like Ari Aster and T. West and stuff. So yeah, I didn't have a horror today for 2011. Well, that was all we have for today. Thank you, Saja, for joining me as always. Hopefully we've given you some ideas of what to watch or avoid.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've been here with us on Bent TV watching The Film Whisperers. We'll speak to you next time.